When you achieve something, do you feel pride or relief? Until last year, I only felt relief. When I was 10 years old, my fourth grade teacher, Mr. Klesley, read us a short story called 11 by Sandra Cisneros. We then had to write an essay explaining the theme of this story. I remember getting my essay back, and it was full of margin comments praising my work. And that's when I realized I loved this feeling of validation. I quickly became addicted to it. In everything I did, I searched for validation and praise in my teachers and classmates. I wanted to be seen as successful. A new feeling came with this, though. A pit in my stomach that was a constant reminder of my need to prove myself to those very same teachers and classmates. The only way that this feeling would subside was if I felt like I achieved something that they wanted me to. Somehow, 10-year-old me knew that I only felt successful if I felt that other people thought I was successful. As I grew up, I started building my skeleton of success. Each bone in that skeleton was made of what other people expected of me. The grades I should get, the accomplishments I should achieve, the milestones I should reach. I never thought much of it. All I knew was that it was my obligation to reach these things, and that I never really felt pride when I achieved them, only relief that they were complete. Before I realized this, though, I would destroy myself, and I would always push myself to do more, because I thought that I didn't feel pride simply because I hadn't achieved enough. Success was always this staircase, and I thought that if I just kept climbing, then maybe, just maybe, I might reach the top. Except that no matter how many steps I took, I never even seemed to see the top. We spend our entire lives striving for success, searching for it, measuring ourselves by it. And yet we never stop to truly think about what success means to us as individuals. And I only learned from this when I took chemistry last year. I remember walking into class that first day, and everything went as normal. The first unit was introduced, we all made our introductions, and I left feeling exactly as I entered, confident. Except that with time, I started to lose this confidence. I couldn't understand anything. It was as if the teacher was speaking in another language, and no matter how hard I tried, nothing ever seemed to make sense. All of my peers were way ahead of me, and I was always behind. And I did study hard. I would get home every day, I would take out my blue Oxford notebook, and whether there was an exam that week or not, I would watch hours of the organic chemistry tutor, just so that maybe, just maybe, I might understand what was going on, and I might catch up to my peers. Except that the next day, I would walk back into that class, and everything seemed to go in one ear and out the other. Nothing ever made sense. Fast forward a few months, and we had the first exam of the second semester. I evidently didn't understand anything that was going on and was extremely unprepared. And I remember taking it. I sat at the back right corner of the class, and as soon as I got that exam, I looked down at that paper, and all of the words and numbers got jumbled together into this big mess of things I couldn't understand. I looked around, and everyone around me seemed to be understanding perfectly. They were already writing, using their calculators, and if they needed to, getting up to ask something. I was so confused, I didn't even know what I could possibly ask in that moment to make things make sense. My stomach would twist every time I heard the sound of paper getting picked up, chairs being pushed back, and people handing their tests in. I handed my test in at the very last minute, with it only being about 3/4 complete, and most of my answers were very rough estimates. So it's to no one's surprise, especially my own, that when we got the exams back, there was a big red 2 circled at the top right corner of the exam. I failed. I thankfully got the opportunity to retake this test though. So I studied hard for another week and I came back to retake it. Except that the same thing happened as the first time. I sat down, got that test, looked down, and all of the words and numbers got jumbled and mixed together into this huge mess of things I couldn't understand. I handed my test in, incomplete, and all of my answers were very rough estimates. Except that this time, the next class, when I got my test back, there was a big red 1.75 circled at the top right corner of the page. Not only had I failed, but I did worse than the first time. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How was it that I did so bad in something that everyone else understood so well? I just couldn't understand why I struggled so much in a class that I studied so hard in. But things did eventually get better. Fast forward another few months, and I took an exam in this class that I actually got a better grade in. I got a 3, and I all but jumped out of my chair from the excitement. For the first time, I actually felt what I know now to be pride, because I achieved something that I set for myself. Yes, everyone around me had gotten 4s, 3.5s, 3.75s. And yet for me, that 3 meant more to me than any other good grade I had gotten that year. It didn't matter if that 3 wasn't enough for everyone else. That basic passing grade was enough for me. And that's all that mattered. That's when my skeleton of success that I built in 4th grade came crumbling down. Every bone in that skeleton that was made of what other people expected of me broke, since I no longer cared about those expectations. I could now build my own skeleton of success, because I could now define what success meant to me. As I started to build my skeleton of success, I started to realize that it wasn't just made up of bones. It had muscle, skin, and an actual functioning system. Because in defining success as my own, I just made it that much more powerful. My definition of success didn't exist before because I had been so worried about other people's definitions that I had been too afraid to make my own. Everything was always a comparison, a competition. But now that I have my own definition of success, I finally broke out of those chains. And I now have my own definition of success. I now see a valley with constantly moving mountains, dips, curves, and unknown paths with goals that I set for myself. It's all based on the balanced life that I want to live. Of course, I want to get good grades, but I want to make time for my friends, for my family. I want to eat healthy, I want to sleep healthy. But for someone else, it might be completely different. Not only may their goal be different, but it might be a mountain. It might be a staircase. It might be a river that they want to cross. The point is, it's different for everyone, and that's the way it should be. Because think about it. What makes us all feel fulfilled is different. Turn to the person next to you and think, is what makes them feel fulfilled going to make me feel fulfilled too? I can assure you, most likely the answer will be no. So why are we using a single definition of success for all of us? Why are we using a single standard for the entire definition of success for all of society? It doesn't make sense, and it isn't how we should be living our lives. Since we were young, success has always been something that we've been taught to measure ourselves by. Success is something that's universally popular, except that in reality, success is anything but universal. It is deeply personal, shaped by our experiences, values, and beliefs. Success is dynamic, not static. It evolves with us as we grow, as our beliefs and values change, as we experience different things. Because, again, think about it. What might be your major accomplishment right now probably isn't the same as it was 10 years ago, and it probably won't be the same 10 years in the future. So how can a single definition of success follow us throughout our entire lives when we're changing so much? We won't feel complete this way. It isn't how we will reach our fulfillment. It isn't how we should be living our lives. If we keep trying to impose a single definition of success, we will lose sight of what truly matters. Success is going to become the shadow of societal expectations, rather than a reflection of who we are, of what we choose to feel proud about. We must ignore other people's definitions of success if we truly want to feel complete. Now, when you leave this room today, I want you to build your own definition of success by building your own skeleton of success. It's hard to ignore the standards that we've grown up to believe that success are supposed to be. It's uncomfortable to look within and truly reflect and think, what are my values? What are my beliefs? And how do my experiences shape who I am? While ignoring what we've grown up believing, and while ignoring other people's opinions. But believe me when I say that once you do this, you will never feel more complete. You will finally be free. And also realize that when you start to build your own skeleton of success, it won't just be made up of bones. You'll notice that it'll also have muscle, skin, and an actual functioning system. Because in defining success as your own, in finding what makes you feel proud, you'll just make it that much more powerful. And you'll find fulfillment. So remember, success is only real when it belongs to you. Thank you.